The top stories tonight in Y News. A series of explosions hit the ammunition depot inside Camp Adalberto Evangelista in Barangay Patag, Cagayan de Oro City, wounding 3 civilians near the camp. President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. held his second meeting with his cabinet members, focusing on the budget, infrastructure, transportation, industry, and tourism. The Department of Education is setting a November deadline for the full rollout of face-to-face classes in public and private schools. Retailers and banks are advised by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas to accept folded polymer banknotes. Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Tuesday, July 12, 2022. Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the Philippines and in other parts of the world. I am Hardin Delgado. We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts. First in the news. A series of explosions rocked the ammunition depot inside Camp Adalberto Evangelista in Barangay Patag in Cagayan de Oro City this morning. The Philippine Army says it is not a terroristic attack. Leia Ilagan explains why.
The Philippine Army will conduct an independent internal investigation in the fire that followed an explosion in the ammunition complex number 5 within Camp Adalberto Evangelista. There is no indication of sabotage or terrorism after the incident, said Philippine Army spokesperson Colonel Cerces Trinidad.
The cause of the fire is still under investigation, and of course, our EOD experts are asking for a cool-off period kasi this involves yung ammunitions and very dangerous po, no? Kung sakaling papasukin ka agad yun, as there might be some unexploded ammunitions during that incident. So medyo mahirapan po tayo makapasok agad.
3 civilians were injured, but there have been no reported casualties in the military.
No casualties on the part of the soldiers. However, meron tayong na-identify na it was rushed to the hospital, 3 civilians, basically na nagkaroon ng minor injuries now through shrapnel of injuries on their face and sa braso. Isang 45 years old and 22 years old and one minor 15 years old.
The residents within 500 meters of the incident were also evacuated by the 4th Infantry Division. The 4th ID Gymnasium now has 49 families or 233 individuals.
The Army leadership assures continued assistance for the displaced family and injured civilians.
In the meantime, authorities are providing psychosocial support and stress debriefing to affected individuals at the evacuation centers. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
A week after his first cabinet meeting, President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. presided the succeeding one while in isolation. This report details why. In his second week in office, President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. presided the second cabinet meeting of his administration, but this time via teleconferencing. Marcos is currently in 7-day mandatory isolation after testing positive for COVID-19 for the second time on July 8. His isolation is expected to end on Friday, July 15. Press Secretary Trixie Cruz Angeles says several government agencies presented their initial plans to the president, including the Departments of Budget and Management, Public Works and Highways, and Transportation. Some of the topics discussed were the 2023 national budget, which will promote broad-based and inclusive economic recovery and growth. Also presented were the Build infrastructure program and transportation projects that will be prioritized by the Marcos administration. The president, meanwhile, also wants a review of the education curriculum to address jobs mismatch. In a press release, Marcos was quoted saying that a review of the TESDA curriculum and diploma courses are needed to address concerns about worker skills and competence. Meanwhile, the palace assures the president is aware and on the top of the inflation problem. This comes after a Pulse Asia survey revealed that majority of Filipinos consider inflation as the most urgent national concern. Out of 1,200 respondents, 57% of them say the Marcos government must immediately take steps to control inflation. This was followed by increasing of workers' salary, reducing poverty, and creating jobs. Angeles says they discussed inflation in the last cabinet meeting, with the president reporting it himself. She adds the chief executive is actually ahead of the publication of the survey, having anticipated the country's inflation as a potential problem. Last week, Marcos' comment on inflation drew flack for disagreeing with the 6.1% June 2022 inflation rate that was reported by the Philippine Statistics Authority. Jorlene Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God. A group of businessmen believes that the Marcos administration could fast-track the country's economic recovery amid the pandemic. Ray Pelayo tells us why.
The ongoing conflict involving Russia and Ukraine, rise in the cost of goods and services, and the COVID-19 pandemic, these are the factors curbing current world economy growth. President of the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry, or PCCI, George Barcelon, previously stated at a press conference that economists anticipate the Philippine economy to recover in 3 years. However, they are hoping that President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s administration would bring about a change.
But I hope that this administration, as I said, can hit the road running, and the prevailing conditions would improve. Ibig sabihin, yung presyo ng crudo and commodities.
Barcelon said that their top recommendations for the government to focus on in order to attract more investors include digitalization, energy, and transportation. The group is available to consult with the government as well.
We're not saying we know everything, but just to have some, on our side, we have more visibility on the grounds. Okay? And we would like really to help in any way we can.
Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Department of Health reported 79 new cases of Omicron subvariant in the country. Even though COVID-19 is on the rise, the health department still does not recommend mandatory booster shot for the eligible population. Eileen Sarudo will tell us why.
The Department of Health said that the strategy is conducted to encourage the public to get vaccinated with a primary dose of COVID-19 has been effective. With this, the department assured mandating booster shot vaccination is not necessary.
So kailangan talagang pag-aralan maigi kung talagang ang direksyon ba ay mapag-aralan at makapagkaroon ng batas para sabihing maging mandatory ito for everybody. But as I've said, sa ngayon, at this point in time, hindi po natin nakikita na kailangan natin yan.
Instead of making booster vaccination mandatory, Health spokesperson Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergeres said that the government is looking into restoring the incentive strategy, this time for individuals with booster shots. The Health Department will also open more vaccination sites in schools, public markets, and other areas frequently visited by the public in order to improve the booster vaccination rate in the country. Meanwhile, the Philippines keep recording high COVID-19 cases. From July 7 to 11, there are 79 cases of Omicron subvariants detected, according to the latest DOH report. 60 cases are BA.5, 17 are BA.2.12.1, and 2 are BA.4. 60 of the 79 cases have already recovered. The Health Department also said there is no need to implement stricter border control in the country despite the increasing cases because the country is still at low risk.
Sa kabila po ng pagtaas ng mga kaso ng COVID-19, nananatili pong low risk ang healthcare utilization sa karamihan ng ating mga lugar, habang mas mababa naman sa 1.5% ang severe at critical cases among total hospital admissions sa ating bansa.
Eileen Sarudo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
China has implemented a partial lockdown in 3 cities. Non-essential businesses have been closed and millions of its residents are currently subjected to mass testing. Ryuji Sasaki reports why live. Yes, Ryuji?
Good evening, Kath. Chinese authorities are trying to contain the latest coronavirus outbreak as the first Omicron subvariant BA.5.2.1 has been reported in Shanghai Sunday. Mandatory mass testing in several neighborhoods in Shanghai is enforced again, just barely a month after the city lifted its restrictions, while the cities of Xi'an, Lanzhou, and Haikou are currently under partial lockdown. Several million residents in these cities are advised to keep their movements within their apartment blocks or neighborhoods. Macau has also shut down non-essential businesses for the second time, including its 42 casinos, which are its biggest economic player. The government had avoided closing down the casinos due to the huge economic impact it had caused when they were first shut off in February 2020. Authorities of the semi-autonomous Chinese city ordered its citizens to stay home. Kath?
Thank you, Ryuji Sasaki, for that live report. A second COVID-19 booster is recommended by European health authorities for certain people across Europe. Mavian Dog will tell us why live. Maeve?
Kath, effective immediately, European regulators recommend a second booster jab for those over 60 years old and the medically vulnerable, due to the rising cases in Europe driven by the Omicron subvariant BA.5. The European Centre for Disease Prevention and Control, or ECDC, along with the European Medicines Agency EMA, issued a joint statement saying that the recommendation is based upon the mathematical modeling that suggests clear benefits and protection of an early booster rollout for the old and medically vulnerable populations. Most of the European countries have seen a sharp rise in cases since the end of May, including Cyprus, France, Greece, Italy, Luxembourg, and Austria. On Friday last week, WHO's European region has seen the number of daily cases exceed 675,000. European Commissioner for Health and Food Safety Stella Kyriakides is urging all who are eligible to get vaccinated and boosted as soon as possible heading into the summer period. In the autumn season, those who are 65 and over in the UK will be eligible for a booster, along with the frontline health and social care workers. People aged 50 and over may also be included in the program. Kath?
Maeve, how will this program work and which vaccines are available for the second booster shots?
Kath, the approved vaccines in the European region are BioNTech and Pfizer's, Moderna, AstraZeneca, Janssen's, and Novavax. The recommendation, Kath, also focuses on people who received their previous booster more than 6 months ago, and the second boosters can be administered at least 4 months after their previous one. Back to you, Kath.
Thank you, Maven Dog, for that live report. Russian President Vladimir Putin signed a decree yesterday, July 11th, where residents of Ukraine can get a Russian citizenship faster with a more simplified process. This means people in Ukraine can apply to be a Russian citizen without the need to meet certain requirements. These conditions include living and staying in Russia for 5 years, having a source of income, and taking a test of Russian language knowledge, which are required to obtain Russian naturalization for foreigners. This process was previously open to the independent states Donetsk People's Republic, or DPR, and Luhansk People's Republic, or LPR, Kherson and Zaporozhye regions of Ukraine, but now the decree has expanded to the entire country. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Ukraine then released a statement condemning the new decree. Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba said that giving passports to Ukrainian citizens is legally null and void, and will have no legal consequences for Ukraine. Venezuelan migrants and refugees can stay in the U.S. for an additional 18 months. Miguel Moldes will tell us why.
Over 6 million Venezuelans fled their country throughout its humanitarian crisis. Venezuela was designated for Temporary Protected Status or TPS by President Joe Biden shortly after taking office in 2021. In answer to the pleas from Democratic lawmakers and immigration advocates, immigration protection for almost 340,000 Venezuelans in the U.S. were extended for another 18 months or until March 2024. This, however, does not include Venezuelans who arrived in the U.S. after March 8, 2021, leaving out a total of 250,000 Venezuelans on temporary status in the U.S. Critics lauded the move but have expressed concern for Venezuelans who have been left out of the announced extension. They also encouraged the Biden administration to grant additional TPS depending on humanitarian demands. Miguel Moldez, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
We'll share more global news with you later, but for now, let's get back to you, Herlene.
Thank you, Kat. The Department of Education has set November as the deadline for implementing face-to-face instruction in all public and private institutions. Janice and Henta reports why.
Classes will open for 2022-2023 school year on August 22, 2022. But according to the Department of Education, schools won't start using blended learning methodologies until October 21, 2022. Education Secretary Vice President Sara Duterte signed earlier DepEd's first department order, which states that by November 2, 2022, all public and private schools shall have transitioned to 5 days in-person classes.
In the department order, we have also provided direction and guidance in the reopening of classes and the gradual introduction of 5 days in-person learning modality classes. In our recognition of the current COVID-19 situation, we have also prescribed the options of 5 days in-person classes, blended learning modality, and or full distance learning until October 31, 2022 only.
All students are required by the department order to attend school 5 days a week with 2 to 3 hours of in-person classes.
This is mandatory. They're all required to go to school, and the mandate is really to eventually go face-to-face. And everybody who is enrolled should abide by the department order, and parents are also encouraged to ensure that their students go to school. The full transition to full operations will be done in transition. Initially, we will be starting with what we call staggered and clustered attendance of students on a daily basis, where the students will be attending 2 to 3 hours face-to-face classes, and the rest of the day in their going back to their homes, and where they will be given what we call soft learning modules as part of the whole program.
Additionally, the department stated that the holding of in-person classes shall apply regardless of COVID-19 alert level, but DepEd will comply if health officials see the need to suspend its implementation.
The policy is regardless of the alert level status of the local government unit. Everybody has to go into face-to-face by November 2. However, we will now leave it to the Interagency Task Force for Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases that if there is such a surge, and the Department of Health would recommend eventually, we will just follow the decision of the IATF.
DepEd is also advising schools to offer psychological assistance to students during the first week of implementation. Janice and Hente, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. nominates Antonia Tony Yulo Loizaga as the next Secretary of the Department of the Environment and Natural Resources, or DENR. Press Secretary Trixie Cruz Angeles says her nomination will still be subject to the fulfillment of the required documents. Yulo Loizaga served as the chairperson of the International Advisory Board of the Manila Observatory, where she advocated for more scientific research on climate and disaster resilience. She's also the Manila Observatory's executive director, a technical advisor of the Philippine Disaster Resilience Foundation, and a member of the senior advisory board of the AFP's Command and General Staff College. As of now, Marcos still has yet to name the heads of the Departments of Health, Science and Technology, and Human Settlements and Urban Development. Operators of public utility buses on EDSA complain about payout delays in the government's free ride program. Transportation Secretary Jaime Bautista admits such payment delay. Asher Cadapan Jr. details why.
A group of public utility bus operators says they can no longer support their operation due to delays on the government's end in paying for the service they provided under the free ride program. The Mega Manila Consortium Corporation says it is facing financial difficulties, particularly in procuring fuel, which has now almost doubled this year.
Kahit na nga sana mataas ang diesel, kasi ito ay libreng sakay. Ito ang advantage ng mananakay at saka ng operator kasi nagbabayad po ang gobyerno. Yan po yung programa nila na in-extend nga up to December of 2022. Ngayon, ang nagiging problema po talaga is the payout thing kasi siguro kung mga 16, 17 weeks na sila, ang nababayaran pa lang po yung pang 7 weeks.
The MMCC adds that the payout delay also impedes payment to their drivers, conductors, and other personnel, causing labor issues. But in order to alleviate their burden, bus operators are forced to reduce the number of bus units in their operation. The MMCC is confused as to why they are experiencing delays in receiving their payout from the government. Transportation Secretary Jaime Bautista accepts the problem but explains that they must also ensure that the government pays them accordingly.
You have also to consider yung control, no? See to it that tama yung binabayaran ng gobyerno sa kanila, no? Pero ang sabi ko is talagang bayaran kaagad. Lahat ng valid claims, let's pay immediately, no? The fund is there, so there's no reason why this cannot be paid, no? Unless there are questionable billings, no?
To continue the free ride program until the end of the year, the Department of Transportation requires about 1.4 billion pesos. With the assistance of President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr., Secretary Bautista plans to request the said fund from the Department of Budget and Management. Asher Cadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Today marks 6 years since our nation triumphed in the West Philippine Sea dispute at the International Court of Arbitration. The Marcos administration continues to work for a peaceful solution to problems relating to the disputed territory. However, a majority of Filipinos, according to the Pulse Asia survey, said that the country should invest in military and Coast Guard capabilities. Dante Amento will tell us why live. Yes, Dante.
Good evening, Herlene. Philippine Ambassador to the United States, Jose Manuel Romualdez, says that China and the maritime dispute in the West Philippine Sea continue to be the Philippines' biggest foreign policy challenges. This comes in the middle of the Philippines' important win in the 2016 Arbitral Tribunal ruling. However, Romualdez further clarified that the nation's position toward the West Philippine Sea islands is obvious. The government desires a peaceful solution to possible problems through diplomatics and in accordance with current international laws.
We remain optimistic that the best way forward is still diplomacy. Nevertheless, we are prepared to deter or deter aggression, and we believe in the merit of finishing negotiations on a code of conduct in the South China Sea that claimant states, including China, must agree on.
Even though the Philippines has an independent foreign policy, the country is constantly willing to collaborate and forge alliances with other nations in order to safeguard our territory.
To maximize the inherent maritime potential of the Philippines, we must leverage existing strategic partnerships and build on alliances with like-minded states to defend our territorial integrity and contribute to the international effort to promote a free and open Indo-Pacific.
Many other nations, including the United States, Australia, the United Kingdom, Japan, and even the European Union, expressed support to the country's efforts.
And now, as competition with China intensifies across the Indo-Pacific, the United States is looking to its network of alliances and partnerships to confront this challenge. And the Philippines stands out as one of our most important alliances, given our close historical bonds and the strategic location in the South China Sea that the Philippines occupies.
Meanwhile, according to the Pulse Asia survey conducted from June 24 to 27, 2022, 90% of Filipinos think that Marcos administration needs to invest in the capabilities of the Philippine Navy and the Philippine Coast Guard, or PCG. This is to protect our territory and maritime resources in our exclusive economic zone, or EEZ.
Our maritime vessels have the right to patrol our waters without being threatened. Our scientists have the right to conduct research without being closely observed. Our fisher folks have the right to fish safely and earn a living without fear.
The current administration must assert our rights over the West Philippine Sea, as stated in the 2016 ruling, according to the 89% of Filipinos. Additionally, 84% of the respondents believe that we should form alliances to defend our rights. Arlene?
Thank you, Dante Amento, reporting live from Quezon City.
Following Monday's occasion of World Population Day, the United Nations released a report projecting India as the world's most populous country in 2023, overtaking China. Marvi Delfin will give us the details live. Yes, Marvi?
Kath, India is set to become the world's most populous country next year, surpassing China with its 1.4 billion residents, according to the latest United Nations figures. This after China announced that given its low fertility rate of 1.15 children per woman, their population is due to start declining in 2023, which is much earlier than previously thought. Kath, the planet is predicted to be home to 8 billion by this November and 9.7 billion in 2050 as the pace of mortality slows down. But despite this numerical landmark, the global population is growing at its slowest pace since 1950, with the COVID-19 pandemic also impacting overall numbers and bringing life expectancy from 72.9 years in 2019 to 71 in 2021. Moreover, the global population is expanding unevenly. More than half of the increase in the next 30 years is expected to be concentrated in just 8 nations, namely the Democratic Republic of Congo, Egypt, Ethiopia, India, Nigeria, Pakistan, Tanzania, as well as the Philippines. Meanwhile, in a statement coinciding with the report's release, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said in a statement that growth is largely thanks to developments in medicine and science, which meant that more children are surviving into adulthood and more adults into old age. Guterres added that the 8 billion milestone is a reminder of our shared responsibility to ensure that our planet can support the needs of people and those of future generations. Kath?
Thank you, Marvi Delfin, for that live report. The famed giant sequoia trees in California's Yosemite National Park are currently in danger as an uncontrolled wildfire continues to spread. Ia De Vera will tell us why live. Ia?
Kath, California's Washburn fire, which began on Monday, has now grown double its size over the weekend. The wildfire has now entered Yosemite's Mariposa Grove, where over 500 giant sequoia trees reside, after already burning down 1,600 acres of land. Firefighters have since doubled their protection efforts in clearing out debris and potential fuels from the grove. Although the trees are said to be very fire resistant, an added sprinkler system installation will increase the humidity around the trees, providing the best protection available, Park Ranger Nancy Philippe stated. Around 1,600 people were evacuated from the area, including residents and nearby campers in the Wawona community. Although the exact cause of the fire is not yet identified, authorities are linking these recent wildfires to climate change, where warmer temperatures and extreme drought are making them more difficult to control. Bay Area Air Quality Management District have given warnings for the North and East Bay regions where the Washburn fire smoke will potentially head to, although not expected to exceed federal health standards. Kath?
Iya, what makes these giant sequoia trees so special?
Kath, the giant sequoias are some of the planet's biggest trees. They are also one of the oldest living things on Earth, with the most famous grizzly giant dated to be at least 3,000 years old. Since 1864, the Mariposa Grove has been legally protected by the federal government. Back to you, Kath.
Thank you, Iya Rivera, reporting live. U.S. President Joe Biden unveiled the first picture from the new James Webb Telescope of what is said to be the deepest and most detailed view of the universe ever. The full-color image revealed during Monday's White House briefing contains light from multiple galaxies that has been traveling for over 13 billion years. The James Webb Space Telescope, or JWST, was released on December 25 last year and has 6 times larger primary mirror than its predecessor, the Hubble Space Telescope. This means it is faster than the Hubble at collecting light and identifying super deep objects. Scientists will use the telescope to study the formation of the earliest galaxies and how they compare to today's galaxies. And those are the reasons behind the news in other parts of the globe. I'm Kat Dumaraos, live from Bangkok, Thailand. Good evening.
Since its public circulation, the handling instructions for the 1,000 peso polymer banknotes have been under scrutiny. JP Nunez explains why.
A netizen posted a photo of the new 1,000 peso polymer bill issued by the Central Bank of the Philippines, which was not accepted by the management of a mall because it was folded. It went viral, resulting in different reactions from netizens.
Kasama sa mga binayad ko, yung new 1,000 peso bill na nakatupi, sabi niya, "Ma'am, hindi na po namin tinatanggap yan." Anong hindi tinatanggap? "Ma'am, yan po yung bago. Bakit hindi niyo tinatanggap?" Kasi po may tupi. Sabi ko, grabe naman. Yung tupi niya, into half lang. Hindi naman tuping malala.
SM Supermalls released the official statement immediately after the post, saying that folded bill are still acceptable in any of their retail outlets, whether made with polymer or other materials. The central bank further clarified that in accordance with their guidelines, folded bills are still acceptable. The latest central bank guidelines issued as of June 23 only list 3 do's under the proper handling of polymer banknotes: keep them flat, keep them clean, and use them as payment for goods and services. Authorities of the central bank say that the following should not be done to polymer bills: write on or mark them or deface them, rip, crack, or pull holes out of them, staple them or use rubber bands to keep them together, tamper with the bill's clear windows, metal accents, and other security features, iron them, place them near an open flame, or subject them to extremely high temperatures, subject them to strong or damaging substances like bleach or muriatic acid. The BSP warned that excessive folding, creasing, or crumpling of the banknotes might leave behind fold marks that would last a lifetime. A person proven willfully destroying the bills could face a 5-year imprisonment and a 20,000 peso fine under the Presidential Decree number 247. JP Nunez, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Our kasambahay, as the world faces these trying times amid the pandemic caused by coronavirus, we are inviting everyone to join the Global Prayer for Humanity from Monday to Friday, 9:30 p.m. Philippine time through the social media accounts of Members Church of God International. And before we close, we will leave you with a word, giving glory to God. From the book of Romans, chapter 2, verse 13. It says, "For not the hearers of the law are just before God, but the doers of the law shall be justified." These are the reasons behind the news, July 12, 2022. Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold, because we need to know. We will always ask why. I am Hardin Delgado. We serve the people. We give glory to God.